Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connect Africa. Welcome to this session tonight. We are going to talk about, as the topic is indicative, the our starting point is, of course, the recent election in Germany, and in general, the rise of conservatism, the political landscape shift to the right, not only in Germany, not only in Europe, but also in the United States. What does this mean? How can we translate this to Africa and their relation with Africa, meaning Europe and US? That is our topic for tonight. And we have the none other than Kwame Gonza to unpack this. Welcome, Kwame.
Thank you very much, Malet, and thank you to the viewers of Connect Africa. We appreciate you for being part of the platform all the time, and supporting the channel. We are grateful. As you have said, we want to look at the rise of conservatism. Politics is increasingly moving to the far right. We have seen in the US, and we are seeing these things happening in Europe also. France has been fighting against this. Germany, which is the European superpower, because we know the two of them with France, they are the superpowers who lead Europe, have fallen, to the far right, mostly the far right politicians. So, yeah, basically that's what we want to look at. And as you said, how does it translate into Africa's conditions? What do we learn from this as Africans? So I'm very glad that we are discussing this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kwame. So perhaps maybe let's start from Europe or Germany. I mean, you can revert to it as your convenience. Maybe you can combine it with also Donald Trump. But let me say this. So Friedrich Merz is, I think, the new chancellor of Germany, who is from the center right, the Christian Democratic Party, I believe. He said, even before the votes have been counted, that he wants to get independence for Germany and Europe as a whole from the United States. I mean, forget even Africa. I mean, they have started it. They are going to also to strengthen up this policy of migration and the way they approach development programs, this and that. But yeah, just tell us from where the rise of conservatism, this political shift, the landscape of politics come from. Was there signs and symptoms for it in what was happening in the world, or was it a surprise for you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Malet. So this, for me, it was not a surprise. Looking at what is happening all over Europe, these things started with what we saw as Brexit. Actually, it started from Britain. If you remember, that people like Gordon Brown were removed or resigned as a minister of Britain. No, Cameroon. It's Cameroon who resigned as a minister, prime minister of Britain. Within a short period, then Theresa May came. Theresa
Mhm.
May in a short period. So Cameroon comes in, and then he is the one who leads Britain to come out of the European Union. All right, the so-called Brexit. So when he is defeated, because he never believed that Britain, the British would vote for a Brexit. So when he was defeated, then he resigned. Then Theresa May came in Britain, and she also did not perform well. Then she resigned. All right, and then Joris Bonson, is also Borison. I don't know, Johnson, but something. Boris Johnson also came. Then he also has to step down, and then there is another woman there who was there, I think, for less than a month, and then she came out of. So Britain has almost had about four prime ministers who are not elected. But all these, what we are seeing, started all the way from that period of uh, Brexit. And the lesson here was that the European people have been taken for granted. All right, they have been taken for granted by their elites. Okay, so that is at least how the European people see it, that they have been taken for granted by these elites. So this is what you are seeing now, is the rise of this hyper nationalism. Okay, hyper nationalism, which is counter to globalization. Okay, is counter to globalization. So this is basically what we are seeing at this particular period. Now, this extends all the way to the United States. Why? Is because during the period of globalization starting in the 1980s, actually it started around 1960s. These are the things which Nkrumah saw when he is talking about neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. These corporations and the elites in the West cooperated in sharing the world. All right, Western corporations shared the world. Now, in sharing the world, it led to deindustrialization in countries like the US. They went around the world. There was technology transfer, of course, in places like China and Asia and all these countries apart from Africa. So they made a lot of profit. But now the gains, those profits were not shared very well in the West. Is only a few people who gained from this tremendous wealth that was created. If you look at companies, for example, like General Electric, all right, General Electric, which was an American company, was was globalized by a gentleman called Jack Welch, all right, and it led to firing a lot of people from their jobs in the United States when this company was expanding across the world. So the elite, the few people in the United States, they gained a lot of wealth, while the majority of the people, their lives did not improve. Now, what you are seeing is a reaction to that, because it has been going on for so long. It has been going on for a long time. So the people now, they are saying that this globalization is not beneficial to us. It has not benefited us. But in truth, it has benefited them because they have been able to get cheaper products which are manufactured, for example, in places like China. Because if it was not for China, the products which they consume, even in the Western world, they would not have been cheap. But there has been a lot of wealth. The bottom line is that there has been a lot of wealth that has been made, and that wealth has gone to only a few people at the top. And that is the business people, the people who own these companies, and the politicians. So the people now, they are saying that we want our countries back because the jobs, there's competition. Now there's competition for the jobs themselves, for the industries, the new industries. That is why you are seeing what is happening in China, is that the emergency of China's automobile industry is leading to the collapse of the automobile industry in Europe. So you can see these pushbacks. Now, apart from that, there is also what we would call contradictions. Okay, so these are contradictions within this particular society. There's contradictions that they are talking about democracy, but in theory, that the gains of this democracy have not been distributed. Okay, democracy is merely remaining at the ballot, but is not coming out economically, that the gains, because basically democracy, what they say is that one man, one vote. Basically, what they mean is that we are equal in deciding the future of our country in which we live. But when it comes to the economics, there is no democracy there. It's only a few people who are taking everything, and yet you are telling us that, oh, we are all equal in this particular society. the opportunities are, are open to all of us. So there's contradictions within this society. Now the liberals, they are the ones. That's why we talk about neoliberalism. Okay, the new liberalism, because the United States, when it rose after the 60s, around the 60s, it was, that is what they called a liberal order. But after the 1980s, 1990s, then there was the rise of neoliberalism, which was globalization. All right. Now, these neoliberals, they are the ones who I've been talking about, that they gained a lot. They gained a lot of wealth. They gained a lot of wealth from globalization. Okay. So now, these neoliberals, they are the ones, this is an ideology which has been running the Western societies. It has been running Western societies, and he says that, okay, we are living in a globalized village. But even with that globalized village, it has been for benefiting the West. But if you look at it extensively, it has been, even in the West, within the West, is for benefiting the few. Places like Africa and Latin America, they have not benefited much, even though they say that the purpose of this globalization was to benefit, to spread wealth, to everyone should benefit across the world. So this is what they brought to us. And hence you see the World Bank intervening everywhere and imposing policies, because they were saying that they are creating a global economy where the economy should be run, global economy should be run on free market policies. Now, what we are seeing is a contradiction, that these people say that the wealth will be created for the many. But when we come to society, within the European societies themselves, and even across the world, we see that it is not true. It is not the case. Now, this is a contradiction in itself, because you are saying a different thing, and we, on the other side, we are seeing a different thing. For example, in the US, they say that, okay, when these companies go out there and expand, American companies expand across the world, they will be able to make products at a cheaper rate, so that the Americans will be able to afford the products. But at the same time, they are losing jobs. They need the jobs. So you can see that this is in itself a contradiction. So the contradiction reaches a point whereby it becomes unbearable to the people. And so they say that they want to take back their country. Now, this leads people to, even in some cases, or in most cases, to fall prey to demagogues. And that is where then Donald Trump comes in. Because Donald Trump says that he's going to bring back the industries to the United States. When he came last time, he was saying that he's going to bring back the steel industry. He's going to revive the coal industry. That was the first time. He's going to rebuild America's infrastructure. Those infrastructure, he never rebuilt them. So this is demagoguery. So people fall prey to that. Okay. So now these are 2 points which I have mentioned. Now, the third point is that the world has made so much progress. All right. Now, in this making progress, the global south has gained. Okay. If we look at 400 years ago, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, the global south has gone on gaining. That is why you see that the BRICS countries, all of them are in the global south. But now the BRICS countries, they constitute 50% of the global economy, global GDP. But 60 years ago, the global south, it did not have even less, about 10% of global GDP. So it shows you that they have gained. Global south has gained. Now, whenever the global south has gained, then the West has felt threatened. Hence, you see the sanctions on China, and then and all these things, and sanctions on various countries. Why? Because when they gain and they move up the value chain, the economic value chain, then the products which were once a luxury, they become common to everyone. I'll give you an example. An example is the mobile phones. When the mobile phones came, the companies which dominated this industry, they were Western countries, companies like Siemens, for example. For those of you who are old enough to remember, the phones which we used to use, there was Siemens, there was Nokia. all right, Samsung. These were the companies which dominated the telephone industry.
Yeah.
Now, when China came in and got this technology, it democratized the technology. Now the Chinese companies started making telephones, and of course some other countries like India and all those ones who could afford. So the technology, which was now a luxury, a mobile phone which was a luxury, it became a technology which is open for everyone. It was democratized by China. Now China is doing this with the automobile industry. The same thing, that is what China is doing right now with the emergence of electric vehicles. I can show you some vehicles today which are selling at $15,000, $12,000, $9,000. This was not the case in the past, because Germany and the United States, they were controlling this industry. The industry was for them making profit, and it's not for improving the lives of others, or people across the world. So whenever the global south countries have moved up the value chain, processing, manufacturing, this has created competition for the available global market, because the global market is finite, is not infinite. Now this leads to pressure within the so-called imperialistic camp, the so-called Western world. Why? Because now there's so much competition that has risen for this market, global market, not only the global market, but also the available resources. Now, this is where the demagoguery, the demagogic politicians in the West get a chance, because they promise that they are going to make the situation better. And so we see people like Donald Trump saying that they're going to make the situation better. They're going to, revive the coal plant. They're going to revive the steel plant, which policies are very difficult now. Those things are very difficult to bring back because we have moved on. Now they are trying to withdraw from globalization. They're trying to withdraw from the globalization, which they started with their World Bank and International Monetary Fund and all these institutions. They are trying to withdraw, and yet it is not possible now anymore to withdraw from this system which they have created. They are withdrawing because they don't want to make it better for everyone to benefit. They think that they alone are supposed to be benefiting from this system and exploiting the rest of the world. But the rest of the world now has become very smart. People are educated across the world. You come to Africa, for example, we have a literacy rate of around 75%. So people know what is going on across the world. So that means that the more there's something which Mwalimu Julius Nyerere said, is that if you teach people, they begin to demand. All right.
Mhm.
It's like if you help someone to become smart, all right, and they understand what you have taught them, then that person begins to demand respect. Okay, because they already know now what you knew. You the teacher, you are the teacher. The person now knows what you knew. So this is the situation that we are seeing that is happening even across the world. Now, the demagogic politicians, they respond to this globalization or immigration, including immigration, which has been the campaign phrase, in Europe and even in the United States under Donald Trump, where we are seeing is deporting. Now they take all these challenges which they have failed to solve due to this globalization and the failure to reform their systems to adopt to the current system, global system, and the advances in the world, in world politics and economics, political economy. They want to protect, they want to insist to protect all the system whereby they continue to exploit the resources of the poor. And that's what you are seeing, for example, with the Lobito corridor in Africa, Congo, Angola. So the right thing to do for everyone to benefit according to the globalization which they brought is to build refineries for cobalt, copper, and all the other minerals in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Angola. That's the right thing to do. But they revert back to their old ways of extracting mineral resources, material resources, because they have failed to reform the global system so that it can benefit, everyone. So now this failure leads them to tell their people that, the problem is immigration, is because a lot of foreigners are coming into our country. That's why we have lost the job. But the real problem is the poor policies which they have in their countries, that they have failed to manage these resources, and they have failed to help the rest of the world, like the global south, to move up the value chain and share, so that the world can share these resources, because the resources are enough for everyone. But these guys, they want to engage in, uh, I think, what Nkrumah called egotistic. Okay, you have one person like, Elon Musk. He has over $500 billion. One person is almost is worth $1 trillion. So this is what is called egotism. Instead of using these resources to make the lives of others better, these guys, they resort to egotism. Only a few, like Jeff Bezos, should have $200 billion, should have $300 billion. One person should have this. So this is causing friction now in the West within itself. But even the global South sees this and says, no, it is time for us also, to fight back. It is time for us to fight back against this unfair global system. So this fighting back by the global South now is being reflected within the European countries, within the United States. So the people who are now were championing the system of globalization, or the neoliberal system, the ones who are at the forefront now, people like Biden and the Democrats, all right, the Democratic Party, who are saying that no, we can continue to engage the world, through globalization, and continue to extract, sort of like using what you would call, we can continue to be hypocrites, all right? We can continue to say that it's benefiting everyone when it is not benefiting, all right? We can continue to use this tactic to extract value from the world, wealth from the world, and tell them that it is benefiting them while it is not benefiting, all right? So now Donald Trump and these other far right groups, what they are saying now, what they are coming to say is that no, we need to say the thing the way it is, all right? We need to go back to who we are, all right? We are colonialists, all right? We are white supremacists. We need to take things, we need to tell the people that we have to take, because what they're saying is that this tactic of practicing hypocrisy is costing us too much. Okay, that's what Donald Trump is saying. That's why you are seeing that he's withdrawing from these institutions, like, for example, the World Health Organization, withdrawing the finances, shutting down USAID, because these are tools. USAID, United Nations, World Health Organization, World Bank, these are tools which are used by the neoliberals. That is what I talked about, and I said that from 1980, from the 1980s, the neoliberal ideology rose, and it was being propagated through these institutions, including the United Nations. So now what Donald Trump is saying is that no, if we are going to go and take things from these people, these poor people, the global South people, or the third world people, like how they call us, we need to go and take it by force, because that's what we are. We are colonialists. Okay, the Biden and group, they are saying that no, we need to hide ourselves when we are taking it. Trump is saying that it is costly to practice that. We don't need to do it. We should cut all that spending and bring it back to the United States, because
But
they are
let me come in this, because it will help, for you to elaborate on this. Many will have a question. I find it, so what you're saying is actually these are more, meaning Republicans or these conservatives are more, they are going to exploit more. In fact, speed up the way it is done, not really to leave us alone. But the language maybe that is used, because all what we know is now, what is taken for granted from what Donald Trump saying is that, okay, US first. And the same thing when these conservatists or the far right people comes in Europe, what they are saying is Germany first, England first, or Europe first. So we all think that now as an African, okay, like they are going to leave us alone, right? That might be translated into positive or negative, but isn't that I'm lost. What I wanted to
No,
ask.
so no, so there's no leaving us alone. Both of them, they cannot leave us alone. These countries cannot survive without exploiting others. Look at Europe, for example. It doesn't have any resources.
I don't think many of us have an understanding of what US first means, to what extent it reaches.
No. So
Actually,
US first.
because
Look,
you are saying, look, this is not really the fastest way. We're
no.
going to go and take.
Yes. So US first, what it means is what I've been explaining is that the people are saying that they want to take back their country. That these neoliberals, because there's what the political scientist Eric Lee said is that the US has been engaging in what is called imperial overreach. All right, that the cost of administering this imperial overreach is higher than the gains. All right, look at Britain, for example. The fall of the British Empire started in 1776 when the US gained its independence. All right, in 1776. That is when US gained its independence. Now, I'm going to come back to you to talk about where Africa gains from. All right. But let me go back to the British Empire. The British Empire started falling. Of course, these things don't happen immediately. They are not spontaneous like they happen. It is gradual, it's a gradual process. But Britain started falling as an empire in 1776 because the US was a colony of Britain. All right. It was a colony of Britain and it was making huge amounts of money and profit from cotton and sugar during that period. These were the major products, like how you see oil and semiconductors today. All right. These are the major products today where countries make a lot of, these two countries have been making a lot of money. That's why the US has been starting wars and all over. Now, cotton and sugar were the major products during that period in the in the 18th century, 1776. Now, when the US gets independence, Britain feared that France would overtake it as an economic power because they were at a rival. There was rivalry between the two countries. All right. So Britain, what it decided to do is to use hypocrisy and start saying that slavery was bad. Why? Because it did not want France to overtake it economically. But it was not because the British were very good people, were very benevolent people, were humanistic people. No, it's because they feared that France would overtake them economically. Therefore, they said we should stop slavery. And they started fighting against France. Now, that's the period when Britain started, collapsing. Then, of course, later on, it would gain India and colonize India. Okay, remember that in 1885, 1884, 1885, they went and divided Africa. They gained more colonies. So it colonized India and it continued to make profit. But then 1940s, India got its independence. This is the process which accelerated. And then the other African countries started getting independence. Then this process accelerated the decline of Britain as an empire. All right. Now, when it comes to the United States, it is the same situation that we are seeing. That today, the industries which brought the United States and is dominated from the 20th century, starting with the 20th century, the energy industry, all right, semiconductor industry, automobiles, all right, technology. These are the industries which the United States dominated. Now, the more these industries have been encroached on by the rest of the world, the more is the United States has gone down. It's the same with Europe. The more these industries China has gained, the more when you read the news today, everywhere you hear crisis in Europe of the automobile industry. All right, building machinery. This is what Europe was known for: building machinery, the automobile. By everywhere you read now, you hear that there's some form of crisis in Europe. Why? Is because there's these gains. So, what am I saying here? What I'm saying is that these neoliberals were were doing it covertly, and they were overspending more than they are gaining. And what Donald Trump is saying is that no, this overspending is ridiculous. So he's now answering to the people who are who have sentiments, who have been having these sentiments, holding them for a very long time, and saying that these people are misleading us. These people are misleading us. We need to take care of ourselves. Why are we spending all these monies? I mean, if you look at this expenditure which Elon Musk has been uncovering by the USAID and all the other institutions in the United States, ridiculous expenditures, spending on what, spending on gay rights, spending on this all over the world. All right. So this is the cost. That it is costly, is too costly. Now, Donald Trump, what he's saying is that if we want something, we need to go and get it by force or trade tit for tat. All right, we don't need to go behind poverty and spend all these monies because it is becoming too costly for us. Like that is what you are seeing with Ukraine. He said that Ukraine, if it was a
So we,
United
we
States,
don't have to give the money through aid or whatever,
yes,
whatever. We just do what
yes,
we want. Okay.
yes, that is it. So he's saying that Ukraine has to give the minerals. It has to sign for minerals. So this is transactional. Trump is about transactional relationship. But this does not mean that if he wants and you are weak, that he doesn't come and attack you and take it. Because the bottom line is that all of them are colonialists. The liberals, the neoliberals, or the so-called, Democrats, and the conservatives or the Republicans or the who are the white supremacists. Conservatism basically means staying, leaving things the way they are. That's being that it comes from the word conserving. All right, conservatism comes from the word conserving, leaving things the way they are. That is
So ways,
basically.
and that the ways there are is what? Just colonization, continuing colonization, or what?
Yes,
What does that
of
mean?
course, that is what it is. Living, that's what Donald Trump is saying. This is what we are. We are conservatives. We are white supremacists. That is basically. That's why you see J.D. Vance visited Europe recently. I think it was last week, and he spoke at the Munich Security Conference and said that Europe is being diluted. Europe, they are allowing in too many immigrants, and therefore Europe is losing its culture. Why is he saying that? Is the vice president of the United States. All right, that the European culture is being diluted, the European culture is being
Yeah.
encroached on by these
Mhm.
groups who are coming in as immigrants. Why is he concerned? Is because Europe is the mother of the United States. Europe is the mother of the United States. And why? This is white supremacy, of course. And that is what conservatism is. And that is what is rising even in Germany. The people who are rising there, who are winning elections, they are the ones who are saying that we should close our borders. The immigrants are invading us. All right. This is the same thing which J.D. Vance has been saying. It's the same thing which Elon Musk is saying. He's talking about Western civilization. What is Western civilization?
Yeah.
Is of course white supremacy. All right. Western civilization. We should produce more children. We should do this. All right. They are saying that these people who are coming from Africa, Middle East, and Asia, they are diluting their culture. That's basically what they are saying. Okay. So all these are excuses of wanting to withdraw from globalization, which they started and they benefited from it. Now, when we want to benefit from it also from global south and we want to participate in this globalization and benefit, they say, no, you will not benefit. We have to protect what we have gained from this globalization. So these are all exploitative tactics that we are seeing. So and that is what Donald Trump and the rest of them, they are trying to do, that they are speaking to what the people have been thinking in their minds, that um These people the immigrants are taking over our society and stuff like that, and therefore we need to America, Europe first, and all these things, make America great again. All right, some these things which are impossible even at this particular moment where we are in history, they are impossible. All right, and they would cause, if this was to be successful, it would cause a lot of instability across the world, because now very few people are going to accept to be enslaved again and be exploited, as we move forward with the world the way it is. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for unfolding or revealing those things. So I was going to move in my next question. How does this impact Africa positively or negatively? How can our heads of states can play? I mean, the other day we have had the opportunity or the honor to have Dr. Arikana Chiombori here, and she said, she is not definitely one of the people who will agree in most of what Donald Trump says. But one good thing is that, so because he says America first, so that, Africa can learn now, saying, Zimbabwe first, South Africa first, Ethiopia first, and, collectively Africa first. But now, from what you have unpacked to us, it doesn't look like that they have, even if we have right now, I don't think we have such leaders, except in the Sahel states. Even if we have such leaders who says no, Zimbabwe first or Ethiopia first, then uh, there's no so much room for them to play, to play tough. uh, Give us an example, then how should it be now? How should Africa position, or the member states position themselves in the midst of this right right parties or conservatives rising in the West?
So uh, so first of all, this is a great opportunity for Africa, all right, and the global south. It's a great opportunity. It's one of the greatest opportunities,
How so?
because throughout history, it's during these moments that there has been a gap for the independence forces, the forces which have been fighting for freedom for the African people, and especially the global south, and other global south countries. It is where they have gotten the opportunity to break through and break the chains that had been imposed on them during that particular period. And I'll go back to the period which I say that it is until 1776, when Britain lost the United States as a colony, and France and Britain started fighting against each other, that you see in 1791, okay, about 20 years later on, right? Approximately about 20 years, somewhere there, that the Haitians started, agitating, and they got independence within a period of 13 years in 1804 and 1805. Right? It is these particular moments that we have had the imperialists are fighting against each other. They are agitating each other against each other. They are attacking each other. We have seen this even later on during the World War II, that these countries were fighting against each other. This is where the Africans saw a gap to fight for independence. So it's the same situation that you are seeing today. Why this has been brought about by friction within the middle class in the West. All right, in the West, this middle class has been fighting against each other. They don't know now how to approach this particular situation. Why? Because they are seeing that the economic gains are slipping away. The control they had in that particular
I think it has a glitch or internet problem. Maybe we can see the comments until Kwame come back. It's I think a connection problem. Uh, let's see from where. Anton D'Alema, very concerned with mineral rights for defense negotiations between, I think you wanted to say DRC leadership and EU. Yeah, I mean, again, you can say that uh, we have uh, we have such leaders, heads of states that are completely, I don't know what to call it, if I'm allowed to say, just idiots, who are offering their natural resources for intervention in their countries. This is basically, it's a legal theft. Is there such a thing? Inviting for looting, but in a very uh, in a legal way, announcing it publicly to the world. Uh, some of you have said, okay, Kwame for the African Union chairman, or the organization that replaces the AU. Yeah, that would be good, but it should be as an organization that replaces the AU, or something that's duplicated the IES, as somebody said here. Yeah, was there any question? Yeah, please pay attention to what's happening in South Africa. Some people in that country still thinks no blacks should rule over them. There is a back and forth going on silently. Some people think that in that country still thinks no blacks should rule over them. Well, I mean, it's not some people, we know who they are. But yeah, I think the video by Wodemaya has really, really shed light on this small state, a country within a country called Orania. The Dutch people, who they say, their ancestors have settled there lived there for hundreds of years, so they deserve to be there. I mean, South Africa didn't say nothing. It's not the South Africa media that shed light on this. Again, it's our people, YouTubers who went there and, interviewed. Actually, the issue of Orania came when the last election happened, after the DA, this Democratic Alliance political party, has joined the union government with ANC. So the issue of Orania has been raised because they want Orania to get its secession and to be a country by itself. But people just did not pay attention, or I don't know. But thanks to Wodemaya, now the world knows. What can you do? If South Africa itself have accepted it and is not doing anything, uh, agitating for what? I mean, yeah, it really doesn't make sense. It's the dumbest thing. I don't think no African can go to Europe and say, have a little area saying no whites can come and live here. Uh, but that's happening in Africa. Well, that's South Africa for you, or that's Africa for us. in terms of, let's see what kind of questions we want to ask, or what kind of relation that Africa should have with with this rise of conservatism with the West in Europe and also in the United States. Because now, from what Kwame told us, is that when Donald Trump or others say UK first or US first, it doesn't mean that they are going to leave us alone. In fact, they don't want any cover story, meaning, for them to enter to a country, to come to an Africa with a cover or with a camouflage of US aid. But we can just do whatever we want. That's what they're saying. They just want to make it transactional. Okay, you do this, just like what Trump said for Ukraine. Unless you give us that rare mineral, then we don't support you or we don't continue to fund your security. That's what he said. So the same thing can happen to Africa as well. So a direct transaction. So it's time for our heads of states that they can sit on the table equally and say, what is right for them to say. So I don't want to take more time. Welcome back, Kwame.
Thank you, Malit.
So yeah,
My internet.
it was it a connection.
Yes, my internet went off. Um, but
Okay, all right
thank
then.
you.
So you were telling us. I asked how should it be the approach from our own heads of states.
Yeah. So I was just laying a background on that question, that it has always been an opportunity when these countries are fighting against each other, and when we go back to 1791, there was an opportunity there, and our ancestors saw it. The two overtures in current day Haiti, which was called San Domingo during that period. Britain was terrified of France bypassing it, surpassing it as a major economy. Um, and then they started fighting. They were fighting on the sea with the ships. So there was an opportunity there when they were distracted fighting against each other. When we come to World War II, we see this same situation, this same scenario repeating itself. All right, that situation repeated itself, and then when we come to today, is actually the same situation that we are seeing. That the U.S. now is fighting against against Europe. Sanctions. This U.S. putting sanctions on Canada, intimidating here and there. Why? Because during these particular moments of confusion, everyone is pulling to try to take to their side. Everyone is trying to benefit themselves because it's a moment of confusion. All right, it's a moment of confusion, so everyone is trying to benefit. France has been booted out of Africa in in many major places. So now they are in crisis. There's a crisis. China is eating their lunch, which is the automobile and aircraft industry, semiconductor industry. So they are fighting to get these things back, and it is not possible to get them back. And now there's confusion. Now Trump says, now we have, it's America first. All right. Then the Europeans are saying no. Now we have to find our own solution. So this is the conversation that you are hearing even in Germany, that the new possible is possibly going to be the German chancellor is saying that he's going to Germany first. They have to find a way of protecting Europe. You hear Macron saying previously European strategic autonomy. Okay, you hear these things. So this is basically what it means. Macron spoke so much about strategic autonomy, European strategic autonomy. Europe needs to be independent of the United States, and the same thing which we are hearing, the new possible German chancellor, who has been elected, saying that the German has to be independent. They have to find a way of Europe being independent. So this is at the moment of confusion. But while it is an opportunity, unfortunately for us as Africans, is that the people who always fight for the at these particular moments to take independence and freedom, they always come from outside. And currently, we don't have a lot of that force. The current heads of state who are in power, they are part of that system. That is the unfortunate situation. They are already part of that system that is supposed to be destroyed to bring about a free Africa. So this is the unfortunate situation that we are facing as Africans. So for the African heads of state, you don't expect much from them. Those ones, I hate it. I hate to say it, but don't expect anything from them. Mostly the forces which have been fighting for this liberation of Africa, they have been outsiders. They have been people who are on the peripheries. They have not been inside the system itself. Because what you want is to destroy that same system which is oppressing you, which is exploiting you. And this current system, the neoliberal system, basically needs to be completely destroyed, just like how the colonial system was destroyed, just like the system of slavery was destroyed. So that is what needs to happen. So the new revolutionaries in Africa have, I'm confident that they have to work with countries like China and Russia to be able to destroy this system from the African continent and bring about true independence and freedom for the African people. So that's my observation on this particular situation.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Kwame. I will just go through the comments because we have, although it was a 2 or 3 question, but it was done in a very elaborated way. So, do you think? I mean, because it's also in the comment section, should we use the approach of the IES? Is that the only way for us forward really to get
Yeah,
independent?
yeah. So that's what I say, that the people who always bring true freedom and independence, they're always outsiders. So the AES, you can see that these guys can be looked at as outsiders. They are not inside the system itself. So you can see that they had to topple the old system completely. And so this is even evident today when you look at ECOWAS and AES. These are two different systems. These are two completely different systems. That the ECOWAS was fighting to preserve the system, the old system. That they were saying they should restore Bazoum, restore Bazoum, restore this, the rule of law. You see, so this is what they call the rule of law. So the old system was fighting to preserve itself, to restore. And these guys are saying that this old system has failed us and they're outsiders. That's why they are calling them military junta, what. But before they are military juntas, they are citizens. These are people. The fact that these people are military people, it doesn't mean that they are not citizens of the country. And therefore, they don't feel pain when their country is going down the drain. These people are first and foremost citizens. They are people. They are people. They are not just military people. They are people. They are citizens. That is the first thing. They are citizens of their country, so they have a right to put the country in order. So, but people always put forward this being military, what, as if a military person is not a human being, is a machine. You see, so these guys represent a new system which is very different from the colonial system. That is why you see that their approach is to take back the resources, to stop the exploitation of resources. You have been hearing Mali is at war with the gold companies which are coming from Canada, Barrick Gold, and all these ones, because these companies represent an old system of exploitation, covert exploitation, basically, that they tell you that they are investors, yet they are stealing from you. They don't want to pay taxes. They have to be forced to pay the taxes. So this is an old system, and these AES guys, they represent a new system, and they represent the outsiders who are supposed to bring that desired freedom that we need all over the African continent. The old guards, they cannot do anything because they are part of that exploitative system.
I was muted. Another good point from Anton Dalema is that also need to watch for dual attacks from competing imperial interests as EU and US split, which the attack will be against Africa as they try to maintain their interest. I think if I understand it good. Here it is. Let me just put it. Yeah. Yeah. You see it, Kwame?
Yes, yes, definitely. So, but when they are fighting against each other, there's always no, there's no time for them collaborating. So that's a good opportunity. So that could be some sort of divide and rule. Africa could capitalize even on that opportunity. So right now, what we have is that the outsiders, which we are talking about, the revolutionaries, are actually supposed to capitalize on this fighting within the West to pressurize these puppets, the neo-colonial puppets which we have in Africa, to overthrow them. Majority of them, people like Ruto and all these puppets like, Ouattara, in Ivory Coast and all these, Tinubu, all these are puppets who are useless, completely useless puppets who are not adding anything, to the continent. So then this is just an opportunity for that. But when the imperialists are fighting against each other, they really don't have time even to, even though they would be fighting to maintain some sort of control, but it would need it would need expenditure. You would need to expend a lot of resources, and this is what I was talking about. That the US, the cost of administering this system was going too high. It's the same thing with Britain, that when it started falling down, when it started losing its colonies, it lost to the US, lost to India, the cost of administering the colonial system, it became higher than the gains. So that's why they had to drop it. They had to drop the colonies. All right. So this is what we are seeing also the US doing, that the cost of administering this neoliberal system is too high now. It's too high. That's what Trump is saying. It's too high. We need to leave it. If we want something, let's just go and take it by force. All right. This is what basically is saying. Trump is not saying that, oh, America first, or so that you can be Africa first. No, that's not what he's saying, basically. He's just saying that we need to stop this system. The system which we have been using is wasteful, is wasting our resources, and we are not gaining so much. So it's a good opportunity for us as Africans, but then the people have to come out and support, because we have Africans just out there, as if they don't want to participate. Other people are waiting for a savior to come and fight for them so that they can enjoy a better Africa and stuff like that. Yet all of us have to participate. All of us have to make a participation. There's people who are on the front out there fighting, but others are sitting on the side. They're just waiting and they're just looking, and as if things are supposed to do themselves. So this is a situation which is very difficult sometimes, that those people who are fighting on the forefront, they get weakened, even they don't know what to do, because majority of Africans are sitting on the side. They don't want to help. All right. They don't want to help at all. They will be asking a lot of questions, even asking the people who are fighting for them on the front line, oh, how are you fighting? What are you fighting? And stuff, things like that. They don't want to contribute to even their dollar. They say, oh, what are you going to use my dollar? And stuff like that. And we are in a war. All right. We are in a war. We are fighting against people who have all the resources, and your own people you are supposed to fighting with and fighting for, they are asking you all kind of questions. So this is another challenge which we have, as Africans, on our predicament. And of course, this buys the enemy more time even to recuperate or to re-energize themselves and come back and colonize you and keep you in the same situation where you were. So that's the of course the unfortunate part of it.
What do you say on the DRC security deals that DRC Tshisekedi is offering its minerals, not its DRC's mineral, in exchange for intervention, or as they call it, for peace? Did we lose? Kwame, are you there? Thank you, Gwada, for reminding the people to, to hit the like button. Thank you so much. Yeah, we lost Kwame again. I wanted to get his view on this. The AES and CAR also offered mines in exchange for protection. What is new? Better to give a mine or two and keep 95% out of 100 than to lose all 100. Well, we don't know how much is going to be offered, so we don't know if it is only the 5% is offered, or the 100% is offered. So, do you think they will just it will just be enough for them to take 5%? I mean, I don't think so that it will stop there. Bonsu, Big Well, you seem, I think, kind of to support DRC's invitation of the West to intervene, saying that if there's nothing to do, that's the best way for them to fight against Rwanda. I don't think that's the right approach. The solution should come from within, meaning from within the continent, not from outside. Yeah, I think we should have Kwame on another session to comment on the DRC situation and the move by Felix Tshisekedi as we read it. And here also we reported it yesterday. Yeah, but for now, I think we have talked about all what we wanted with regards to this rise of conservatism in the West, Europe, and the United States, and how that will impact Africa. Thank you very much for tuning in, for all your comments, suggestions, your engagement. It really means a lot, and that's what keeps us going. And just one point on what Kwame said in his final talk. How many Africans are just sitting by the side and do not want to contribute, while there are people on the ground fighting the system. So what he means is, there are political parties, there are media platforms and others, who are doing this activists, which is a risk, as talking against your government is really a risk. Anything can happen to you in Africa or in any other parts of the world, for that matter. But to support that movement, whether it could be supporting the media platforms or those political parties, is really important to ask always. Not only, okay, what about this and that, but how can we be part of this? How can we support? How can we be part of the solution? It's really important to ask those questions. Otherwise, we're just, we will continue this vicious circle, just talking and talking without any action. I just wanted to remind you that. Thank you again. And for any question, you can always email us. It's in the description section. It's a bye-bye for me for now. And we will see you on the next one. Ciao.